welcome back. Today we'll be talking about all the books that I read in February. And why don't we go from my lowest rated book to the highest rated book. So the first one is A Killing Cold, and I unfortunately gave this 2 stars. So in the beginning, it felt very promising, like the setting was great, it felt wintry, but very quickly I noticed just how bored I got with the story because the tropes in here and just where things were going was very cliche. And I honestly think that this would be better suited for people that are just starting out with thrillers. And maybe I should also talk about what this is actually about. So this is a woman that is about to get married, and she is invited to a family getaway, and she has been getting these text messages telling her to stay away from her fiance. So they go up into the mountains and she is being introduced to all the family members, and from there things start to unravel. And then the second book I read was The Lost Bookshop, and this is something I read on Kindle. And you know, typically magical realism is not really for me, but I read this for our book club and I went in with an open mind and I did give it 3 stars. So here we have Opaline, and she is fleeing from London to Paris to escape her brother that is trying to put her in an arranged marriage. And then another point of view is Martha, who is also escaping, but she's escaping from her abusive husband. And you know, I liked it, but overall the characters and the writing style felt a little bit too simplistic for me. Like, a lot of the sentences were very short and it felt a little bit choppy in my opinion. And to be honest, I didn't really connect with the story. But what I really enjoyed about this one is the references of different authors and books and just overall the book theme. I really enjoyed that, but like I said in the beginning, I think that magical realism isn't for me, but I would still recommend checking it out, especially if you like magical realism. And then next we have Yellowface. This one I also read on Kindle, and this one I gave 4 stars. And here we have 2 authors, June and Athena, and one night they're celebrating something at Athena's apartment, and Athena chokes to death on a pancake. And June is of course witnessing this, and she's traumatized by the whole thing, and she calls for help. But then before she leaves the apartment, she's realizing that there's still an unfinished manuscript of Athena's next book. So she decides to take it. And then from there, she is finishing this novel, puts her own little spin to it to make it a little bit different. But in her mind, she finished this novel, she wrote other parts in it, so she should be getting the credit for it, right? Some readers are then catching on to some of the similarities to Athena's old books, and from there it just spirals completely out of control, and we are following June throughout that journey. And the first thing that you should know is that these are complete unlikable and toxic characters. So if you don't like reading about that, then I would definitely not recommend reading this, because these people are really bad. The writing style was beautiful. I love the character development, and the overall commentary about race and privilege was very well done. And another thing that I didn't realize this book would have is that the reader is getting insight into the publishing world. I thought that was extremely interesting to read about because I have no idea how the publishing world works. And the only reason I didn't give it 5 stars is that the ending was a little bit abrupt to me. And it's not that the ending was bad, but it did leave me a little bit unsatisfied. But overall, like I said, the characters were very well developed, and it's just written in a way where you really think the story could be a real story. And then the next book I read was Look in the Mirror. I also read that on Kindle. And with this book in particular, I really recommend that you're going into it blind, but I'll just give you a very broad overview. So we have a woman whose dad just passed, and her dad is leaving her with the house. So then she travels to that house, and crazy things are happening in that house. And similar to Yellowface, this didn't leave me fully satisfied in the end, and it was a little bit abrupt as well. But regardless, the story was fast-paced, which I always enjoy. And then the last book I have is Beautiful Ugly. I gave this 4 stars. I have a full review on this on my channel already, so I will link that down below so so you can check that out. But basically what's happening here is that we have a husband and wife, and the wife goes missing. And then we fast forward to a year later. The husband, who's also an author, is still grieving. He has a writer's block, and then his agent is recommending to go to this remote Scottish island. So when he gets to this island, he thinks he's seeing his missing wife. Again, I would definitely recommend this, and I would encourage you to check out my full review on this. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in my next video.